word financial inclusive. So how can we make financial inclusive? It's fine that you people are having bank account, if you are accessing that digital apps, right? But how much we are aware about savings part, investment part, the mutual funds, right? That is basically related to the products, which we can say, and how we are contributing to the society as a whole, right? Are we helping others to make this, financial literacy aware about these instruments or about the basics of finance? So we might have milkman coming to our place, right? We might have grocer vendor coming to our place. Are we interacting with them that yes, how you're gonna save, right? What are the saving instruments? Do you have bank account? All these things are basically required. We people are the fraternity of education, so we should have that gist that we must make our country inclusive. So every country has a national strategy of financial inclusion, right? So yes.
Not a problem because I don't want the basic work about getting a bank account, but she doesn't trust that.
Yes.
She says the money is still under
Oh, you are
her
correct.
according to her.
Exactly, you are correct. So it's not easy to make people trust on those particular bank accounts because they love to get the money in a traditional form, right? They borrow from the people around them, peer ones, right? So this is the thing which is missing actually, and we need to make them sure. Who can assure basically we people? Because when we are financially literate, we can make others, and this trust has to be built. So trust can be only built when we make these kind of awareness program with them, right? And we can showcase them that what is the benefit about it. So the first thing, fine, like I was telling you about financial inclusion. So financial inclusion is also one of the goal, that is a sustainable development goal. That there are 17 sustainable development goals basically, which is proposed by United Nations. And on number 7, it's financial inclusion. So if we basically focus upon financial inclusion and digital financial inclusion, which is given by the G20 principles, which is as per the World Bank, it says that if we make people more financial inclusive, it helps to decrease the poverty, extremely reduce the poverty, and we can promote prosperity, right? So being into education fraternity and being into in the community, as it's our role that we should serve to the community as a whole, and we bring prosperity through this financial inclusion aspect, right? So I'm going to show you certain schemes or certain things which we are preferring in India, wherein our honorable prime minister basically focused upon lower middle group and lower income group and middle income group basically, who are not able to get sustainable living, but because of those policies or those schemes which is being offered by the government, they can able to live life in a sustainable manner, right? And in a while, you people can basically, I'm gonna share certain things because if it is feasible for Krista, I have made one Excel sheet wherein I've done certain analysis of South Africa and India as well, how these countries are basically working upon inclusion. We talk about that we are inclusive, but is it so? Because many things which if we talk about, males have more bank accounts than females. So this is a diversity also is basically we looked upon. Geographic locations, basically, demographic part. So all these things, the factors need to be considered. Now, if I talk about financial inclusion part, there is one term come under our mind, first of all, financial planning, right? So you have your own financial plans, right? Everybody has their own goal, set of objectives and all. So now one can just tell me, anyone can tell me how you make your financial plan. What is the first step which comes into your mind when you think about to make a financial plan? Let's say I'm giving you an example. If I'm giving you $1,000, right? What are you going to do with it? You have $1,000 for a week, right? And then the thing is, then you need to think about during this week you have ample of things. You have to buy grocery, buy food, right? Anything, a lot of things. So what you will do?
Budget.
Yes, tell me. It's fine. You have a lot of responsibility about milk, fruits, laundry man, a lot of things at home, right? Shopping, eating, burgers, party, clubbing, a lot of things. So just tell me, what are you gonna do for with $1,000 per week?
I would budget according to my needs.
How? That's what I'm asking. Just tell me. In a layman language, nobody gonna follow your financial plan.
I know the spreadsheets where I can count.
What will be in that? Tell me.
So from my 1,000,
Yes.
I will divide 200 for petrol, 100 for electricity, 200 for food, and stay and service.
So here is wrong. Yeah, I'm telling you. Because when we think people are thinking about financial plans and goals, what things come into our mind? Spending. No. When you have to start with your financial goal and you want to accumulate wealth, first save. Okay? You have to save that if it is your goal that you have to accumulate $5,000, you need to make up your mind that weekly you need to save this much for sure. It should be like, let's say, $450 you need to save. And rest of the time you need to go down expense. As per Warren Buffett, if you are making it vice versa, you will never become a millionaire. This is the first goal. If you're gonna apply it, I'm pretty much sure next year when I'm gonna visit you, if so, right? You yourself tell me that you have followed this simple basic rule and you have become, your savings are being doubled. So do not make your, whatever is their income. I'm not gonna ask, but first you all have to save, and whatever is left, then you start with expenses. Then you will cut down your fuel part, go by walk, which is good for health as well. You're gonna not buy a Ferrari, you're gonna buy a cycle, which is good for your heart as well. So this is the thing here. So as per Warren Buffett, we must go for first savings, and then we have to focus upon expenses. Right? Financial instruments are not many. Schemes are not many. Anyhow, government will gonna give you schemes, in this country or that country. But whether it's a lower middle group or a middle income group or higher middle income group, everybody wants money. But the strategy has to be, the basics should be clear in your mind. So this answer was expected to me basically. Then you're gonna tell his expenses that I'm gonna shop, I'm gonna petrol, all these fuels and all these things. So this is actually done by everyone. It's a layman thing, right? Okay, so coming to the part. Save, spend, invest. I have already done. Yes, inflation. So not gonna that much in economics and all, just telling you about. So whenever you start with your savings, right, the first comes into your mind how it will impact your money. Who are the factors which are impacting? We all know that there are interest rates, there's inflation, macroeconomic factors or microeconomic factors, right? So what is the inflation rate going on in India and South Africa? Anyone? What is the inflation rate? We are living in an economy, not exactly 5%. Check it out. What is the consumer price index going on? See, the faculties are not aware. I'm worried about students. Yeah. So the thing is, this is the basic part, right? See, it's not like that. If you are not a finance guy, you need not to understand this. Everybody needs to manage their personal wealth, right? And your family, your spouse, leave everyone. You need to become yourself a millionaire, right? You are earning. So you need to understand the economics. You need to understand the demand and supply factor, which is happening in the markets. And then only you can get something in your hand, right? So inflation curves are saving part. It's going to impact it for sure. Right, so there's a CPI, Consumer Price Index, which is impacting. It's 4.89 in South Africa, and then it's 4.93 basically, and 4.83 in India basically, almost equivalent, right? So whenever we are going to invest in certain kind of financial instruments, we should see that this inflation rate of interest or inflation is going to impact our rate of interest. So if we are getting interest of, let's say, 7%, so how much left in our hand? Almost 2%, less than 2, because inflation is going to curve with us. So we need to, when we are planning our monetary aspects, we should give a buffer to our savings. So if you have planned for $450, I must say that you must go beyond 2-3% more, so that you can able to accumulate. I know that will chunk out a little bit stuff in that. Yes, we couldn't able to make it more crunch in our expenses, but it's fine, because we need to understand that there are certain factors which are impacting on our money aspect, so which we cannot stop, because it's just impacted by the markets overall. Now coming further, there are financial instruments. So I'm not gonna touch on all instruments. Planning, I've already told you. Right, so there are certain various options where you can invest: gold, stock, bonds, property, insurance, bank deposits, mutual funds. Right, so these are the options where you can invest overall. But what I suggest in your country, if I talk about, it's not mutual funds like pension funds or certain different funds which are there basically. But in our India, basically we go for mutual funds. So the name is separate, but the working is same, where we all invest for a common pool of investors, invest for a common goal of objective, right? And there is a systematic investment plan in these kind of financial instruments. So particularly, it's your choice that how you want to basically mint your money or multiply your money. So I never suggest put your money in one of the things. Everybody is making money into putting up the stocks. No. Do not put all the eggs into one basket. You have to diversify your portfolio. The more you diversify, because every instrument has risk and return associated with that. Right? So you need to understand the markets as well. And yes, if you say that I'm not a market guy who's going to help me out for all this stuff, it's okay. You are using all the apps, right? There's an automated thing which is coming up to you that this is the portfolio generated, and you must know that, if you read newspaper on a daily basis, these are the just basic ones, right? These are the just basic ones. I'm not much more focusing here lower and middle income group people here, because there are certain different schemes which I'm going to show you, which is basically being favored and honored by our minister to Indian people. But this is something which is good for you people to understand, because when we think about investments, it comes into our mind that how we go ahead. So first you have to analyze yourself where you stand. Now you have to check your risk appetite. If you are that much, able to take the risk, let's say if a person is more aggressive in taking the risk, then I'll suggest certainly to invest into equities and stocks, right? I'll suggest the person to put up some money in gold, property. I'm on the ways. I'll diversify again, but still more investment into equities. So the asset allocation part depends upon your risk appetite. Now you will ask me that how we can analyze risk appetite, right? So there are certain softwares which you can do, but no software can give you accurate answers, because they don't know actually what is going through in your mind or in your family or around you, right? They don't know exactly. You're not going to tell that portfolio manager or the banker the exact funds which you have. Anyways, anyone can manipulate, right? Nobody's true these days. So here you need to make your self-analysis that what are your major responsibilities, in the sense, what are the income opportunities you have, right? You need to scan it down. And then what are the liabilities you have? Now liability is not only that you have to pay EMI. Liability is of your child education is your liability as well. If you are married, your spouse is also a liability, even though she's working, but you are married to her, right? Your family, your house, your society, you're gonna meet your friends. So everything which involve a liability in terms of, which can be measured in terms of money, is your liability, right? So just put all these things into the plan, like this is my risk appetite, and then you will think about that, yes, for the next 5 years, this much of funds I don't require. It's like I'm going to invest it. I have the surplus and I don't want because next 5 years is not that goal, but my goals start from 10 years above. So you have an appetite, you have a duration till that time. So accordingly, I can say that yes, taking the duration part, taking your liability and the sources of income, you can analyze your risk appetite, right? And if you're, let's say a person, if I talk about the models which has given in finance, a person who is at the age of 20 to 35 is always more aggressive in investing. Why? Because he has a long journey to invest, right? An ample of time for earning as well. But if I talk a person who is almost touching 60 years, right, in the phase of 50 to 60 itself, where this person is having a lot of responsibilities, child is getting married, grandchilds are there, education is there. No wonders your child is so independent and all parents are always having certain kind of responsibility, right? So at that particular time, you need to be, that time, if I talk about in a model sense or a logical sense, which we always studied by the different authors, the person has to take a decision, wise decision in a conservative manner, right? And the person who are at the age of between 35 to 55, they always choose a portfolio which is always moderate. Moderate or balanced means a blend of equities and bonds, right? So now, as per your age, I'm going to not ask the age. All are sweet 16 to me as of now, right? Not eligible for investing as well. But the thing is that you all need to be more focused about your liabilities, because if I'm going to show you, internet is not working. Otherwise, that quiz will help me directly to understand where is your literacy, what is your behavior in investing, so I can get you things within a second that you are this kind of person and invest here. So I can help you out. Anyways, if time allows, anyways, in the timeline, I could take a webinar on this. Whosoever is interested, just a click of 15, 20 questions, and I bifurcate people that these are moderately aggressive, these are aggressive, these are conservative. It's just one click for me. But I can say not any software is reliable unless you put all the accurate information. Right? And being into this particular industry, I started my career with mutual fund industry itself, with the finance industry, and I was a wealth manager, and I managed this whole wealth with the whole portfolios, be it property, insurance, bank deposit, gold, stock, bonds, everything. But I could see people from decade is not able to disclose the right information. Right? Even though it's mandatory in insurance, but still people, flaw. So that's why I'm saying that true to yourself, get your assets and liabilities right on yourself and try to analyze what is your next goal within 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Number of duration you have to check it out. 1, second, liability and assets. Third, income part, and fourth, what amount you want at the end. Because any which ways, if you're going to invest in mutual funds, it will give you a compounded rate of interest. If you're going to invest in bank deposits, it will be a lot of fixed rates. So everything is different. So that's why I'm not saying that everyone should go for mutual funds only. You have to diversify the portfolio so that every time you're getting certain kind of things. You want regular income, there are regular income stocks basically. So it give you regular income, right? There are pension funds, there are growth funds, that there are certain funds which go automatically reinvested and your capital get appreciated. Right? For that, the portfolios are there. For that, I am there to help you out. That if you want that, which stocks are actually going good, which mutual funds are good for us. I want to go for my child education. I want to go get my, house to be built. There was a live example with me. There was a one country head of Reebok company. We wear shoes of Reebok, right? So he was my client. He said that, Alka, I want this particular house to be built in Himachal. It's there in India. And I have this mutual fund. I don't know how you manage. Within 7 months of span, I managed his portfolio. And almost in a year, I gave him a wealth that he built his own home in Himachal. and he started rental income. So we can mint money in a very beautiful manner, but for that you must have a realistic approach in the true information which you're going to disclose first, and second you must have a connect with the portfolio manager if you are not aware about these portfolios and everything, right? Any queries till now? Yes.
Can I ask something? How about minimizing risk
Yes.
by investing in a country which has a stable currency, low inflation, where you don't have to pay tax if you withdraw the money or?
I have built another country then. There is no country which I can suggest, because if I talk about developed countries like US, right? So there also there's a flaw that there is not much interest rates as comparative to developing countries. So if you invest in US stocks also, you will get 2 to 3% in your hand as much as interest fixed rate. Otherwise, markets are basically giving, it's like speculation going on. It's in your mind it is 24%, 48% people bet upon it. But at the end, what is in your hands is actually when we committed. So if you got in committed in this, that is not more than 5% in US markets.
There are a few countries where income is basically tax-free. Like where we use stocks and those countries. Can we invest in those countries where income is tax-free?
So now we are dealing with certain global markets, right? So, sir, we are open to invest in Middle East countries as well, right? So we are allowed, because we have certain software, we are eligible to open for these different global markets as well. But depending upon, yes, if you are basically looking for tax-free interest and all, it's fine. But at the end, the returns are not as much as comparative we are getting in India as of now or in developing countries. Now, I will tell you why. There's a fact behind it. It's not that I'm telling you. I just studied a comparative analysis of South Africa and India on financial inclusion. Now, financial inclusion is the basic of all these things which we are actually showcasing, right? So that shows how countries more financially literate, that shows how people are much aware and how people are much sustainable in their livelihoods. So I got to know South Africa is much more sustainable than India in financial inclusion. But problem is, we have wonderful inclusion, but if I talk about demographic wise, it is behind than India. So what is happening there in our country, we are promoting certain schemes, like government is promoting certain schemes for lower group or middle group, right? There are certain Jan Dhan Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Yojana. Dhan means money, Suraksha means how we insure people like accidental riders up to 2 lakh rupees. We provide Jan Dhan Yojana, we give a debit card to every person that everyone should have a bank account, right? So are we approaching, are we giving to everyone? That is the issue. So for India, yes, we are working on it. We are keeping through business correspondent models. We are like, there is one bank who which case study I have done in a thorough way. They said that yes, India is appointing business correspondents who are moving. So that is basically called as a mobile banking. Now, if I talk about interest rates, as sir asked, right? So it depends upon demand and supply factor, right? So any country who is giving more interest rates, it means the demand and supply factor and the consumption of savings and investments is good there. Otherwise, it is impacted. And later on a daily basis, our interest rates impacted. So because if I go to a bank and ask what is the FD rate of today, they said 7%. Tomorrow, 7.2. Why? Because LIBOR is changing. London Interbank offer it. It directly impacted our interest rates. So this is something technical, but if I want to invest into Dubai as well, it will give you much returns. But if I talk about the stocks over there, no. In stocks, yes, you can afford in US, you can afford in India, but the multiplier and the compounding part, because we need to understand the sustainable livelihood as well, the expenses also. right? We need to understand the inflation part also. There are a lot of factors which impact it. So all these things, it's not about the overall profit, right? We are bound to pay taxes sometime. We are, if not taxes, if it's a tax-free organization or country, then we have to check out that overall what is the economy, is it growing, right? Because even if employment ratio is impacting, then also your profit will impact. So there are a lot of economic factors. That's why I told you macro and micro both impacted your overall profits, right? So here I'm not going to promote that please invest in India, come and talk to me now, right? So it's not like that. I want you to understand your national strategy of financial inclusion. Why? Because it's just next 6 years. We want everyone to be financially inclusive, not only to open the financial accounts or the bank accounts. I want everyone to access the financial services. So when you access the financial services at affordable rates, this is called financial inclusion, right? And everyone needs, from your milkman to the millionaire, right? So if somebody is hesitant, we need to understand, we need to tell them that what are the benefits out of it, because a person can invest rupees 200 or you can say 100 rands just for an investment, and there's a systematic investment plan. So we can tell them you can exit at any point of time and you will be getting much more than fixed deposit in the bank. Somehow we all know that we all need insurance. How many of you are insured? Few of them, rest not. Mediclaim policies, right? So anyhow, we know that it's not only insurance, we have insurance and investments both also available in the market, right? So we need to diversify according to the needs, according to, as I say, that we must have a portfolio which could give you better risk, better returns and overcome the risk. Now, sir has asked a wonderful question where how to mitigate those risks, right? So mitigation of risk, sir, we do have financial instruments called as derivatives. These are the technical terms which is there in the finance. So we do have futures, we do have forwards, we do have options, we do have swaps. All these are help to mitigate our risk. But anyhow, when we create a portfolio, we do involve all these things into it. So we hedge our risk through derivatives as well. So that is a financial instrument which we use. So if I'm going to invest into gold, then I can buy gold futures also. Right? Futures and options are basically there, listed on the exchanges itself, and regulators are intervened, right, in that. So there is no counterparty risk in that particular part, right? So this is something technical, but basic thing which all have to understand that when you are talking about portfolio and when you talk about financial literacy, at least tell everyone that yes, we need to access the banking services, not only traditional manner, but into digital manner. And we need to understand that we must reach to the rural areas as well, because we people are white collar people. If I am being asked that go to this particular rural area and you need to be there, no electricity, no fan, no light, right? And then you need to go and talk to the people. So everybody start thinking. So if everybody start thinking about it, how the country or how the world can be inclusive. Right? So we need to take this chart if from the help of students or from yourself. We need to combine effort. Like in India, we have business correspondence, we have ICTs. So I had a case study with Airtel organization, that's an India telecommunication company. I asked that internet is not there in certain rural areas. How they are going to connect as an inclusive, right? So yes, we bring e-commerce, we bring telecommunication, we bring regulators, we bring businessmen all together at a one platform to make our country financially inclusive, right? So no wonder I'm going to tell you the schemes. I think schemes of India, it's just a research study. If you want to go ahead, it's there with me. But as of now, I can much say that being a responsible citizen, we must go ahead first to manage our expenses, right? Our own portfolio, our own wealth. Once we have a trust on ourselves, then only we can go ahead. So I always say to everyone that love yourself first, then you can love others. Do yourself first, then you can do to others. Right? So this is the basic way of financial planning, wherein you can mint money. I assure you, because every instrument give you better returns, but it should be professionally managed. So these pension funds or mutual funds which you have, these are professionally managed. But again, I'm telling you, you need to diversify your.
If you've got a bank account in South Africa and let's say you've got a bank account in Mauritius or India, you need a will if you're going to die. Would you need a will in that country where you
Yeah,
have?
every bank account need a nomination, and when we have international accounts, there is an account known as escrow account, which we will keep it, and the funds were transferred through escrow accounts for investment part basically. And yes, it is the rule now in India. It's a rule. It's as per the KYC norms that you need to give a nomination for wherever you're going to open your account. And yes, we do have NRI accounts and everything, but for investments, we do have certain good platforms and companies which are helping you out through all these things. But yes, the terminology which we go ahead in the finance for dealing to transferring of money from here, this country to that country, and leading into an escrow account that is totally covered and basically taken care by the banks. The bank here will be a bank, there will be another bank there which is not having the same branch, but still they can able to manage because regulators are there to do that. Right? So Reserve Bank of India, which is the bankers of bank, that's a regulator basically who tells that the KYC is much more important. And in India we do have a system like Aadhaar card, which is a unique ID given to every citizen, and we need to link it with our PAN card so that our transactions can be scrutinized and can be easily doable, so that if somebody is not there, then we have to pass the legacy and the particular amount. That can be done easily. Yeah. Here also I got to know certain things that you have certain unique identification numbers, but in India we can call it as Aadhaar card. That's it. And much more. I think that's fine. A lot of things are there, equity funds, stock funds. So these are type of funds. I don't want to go into that much detail. Schemes, basically, yes, one thing which I want to discuss, which is most important. When we talk about financial inclusion, there are certain parameters which come into our mind, right? That like a model, right? People are from different backgrounds. You might do research and create the models, right? So now there's a financial services, access of financial services. These are the available instruments available with us, right? And the outcome is inclusion. Now, with this input and that output, there is a certain parameters which we need to fix it up. So what are the parameters which help us to understand that people can be financially inclusive or not? Can you think what can be those parameters? Can you think? Access to? Okay, basic needs. Okay, something else? Means there are a lot of things, but I identified 3-4 things, which is actually is a basic one. First is the education. Second is health. Third is your standard of living, the livelihood. So I'm talking about financial inclusion. I'm talking about people to be financially literate. But do you think people are literate even? Problem is that, right? So we need to check out the education. Education again having separate parameters. Now how you can analyze the factors of education? How you can say that if this is a location, let's say I'm going to assign you one village and I say go and tell me people are educated or not. So on what parameters you are going to evaluate? That's the formal engagement. So I'm going to check what is the dropout ratio and what is the enrollment ratio of the persons for the education. Right? People are not even 10th pass. People are not even having, if I talk about health, they're not having pulses intake, they're not having protein intake. So these issues come because why I'm telling you I'm doing a research on this, I'm connecting with MSMEs and the micro borrowers of Maharashtra, wherein this, inclusive part have been basically I need to give the output. But if I, talk to them, I got to know that they are not even, 10th pass, they are not, they started with their 5th class standard and they drop out because of financial problems and all these things. So people, if are not literate and we want to make it financially or financial literate. Is it so? He said that I'm not literate, you want me to financial literate? No. So there are certain policies which is being offered by the country or the education system or the things which we need to focus first, that what is the parameters and how we can make them more inclusive. First, to make the basic part to be clear, everyone should at least 10th class pass, right? So this can be the first parameter. Everybody should have protein intake. There are people who didn't even see how milk is basically there, the color of the milk, what is dal, what is pulses, they don't know. So protein intake is zero. People are facing, childs are crumbling. So all these things, we are talking about sustainable living, but livelihood is basically zero. Hygiene is not there. So these are the basic amenities, yes.
It's interesting what you say, how globalization would really kind of look at it in that sense. But I'm thinking of a rural area where a person would like to see their investment in, say, cattle. If of course 100 cows this time around, when I look at them, maybe after 1 year they become 400 and then they become 300, and that is, it's like some sort of investment. And I go to that community and introduce this. And when you introduce this, they think, now I need to have money in the bank, and that kind of may destabilize the local dynamics in that sense. And I'm just reflecting around that, investing in the money market versus investing in tangible things that people can see.
Fine. You can invest in livestock. Who is denying you? No, I'm really saying we have livestock derivatives as well. You can invest in cotton. I have cotton derivatives as well. I'm not stopping you. We have a scheme in India, stand-up scheme. We have a scheme in India. Come on with your own skill. Come on, you women entrepreneurs are promoted by us. Come up with your idea. I'll help you out to get the venture capital for the same. We are ready? Yeah? Yes? Sure? Chandigarh University has an incubator center. Come up with the idea. We'll help you out. Venture capital is on me. I myself is investor, say how much to invest. Right? So it's not like that you need to make comparison. It's your call. You need to diversify your portfolio. Right? If you want to, I have million of rupees, I'm gonna put into a land only, waiting for next 20 years down the line, land will dispose of, now liquid is not there, market crashes, land value decreases, it will be next 20 years. So my goal, I have to check. If my goal is after 20 years, I have a surplus of money, enjoy, fine, let it be for 20 years then. It's okay. So nobody's gonna stop you. Invest in buffaloes, cows, livestock, anything, whatever you want. Right? You can invest easily. That is a part of portfolio itself. Do not bifurcate that. It's investment portfolio doesn't mean only formal engagements. If we are meditating, we are cleansing our soul, we are investing on our health, that's also investment. You are here sitting today, you are investing your time. That's it.
I was just thinking of situations whereby the economy is crushed. So, for instance, what's happening right now in the world, possibly they'll have to take a path buy bread. Whereas in that same country, people work on like livestock. They tend to do a whole lot. So in terms of the best situation of it's interesting how far we go to school and all of that. So you find that the cost of food is not different.
No, I agree. Like you are comparing, like no, a person who is minting more money, not having financial literacy, but a person who is more literate and financial literacy, not minting money. So this is the comparison you are asking. See, knowledge never goes in vain, right? He's dependent on what? Those livestock. No matter if earthquake comes and livestock die, then what do you want to do? Because if you don't have knowledge, you don't have any financial literacy, you are only dependent on one part, and that's also it's a living being who's it's just a livestock. The buffalo dies. Now, what do your family do? But in case you have insurance, you're doing a premium, filling a premium for next 20 days down the line, and if God forbid something happens to me, you never know. Today is my last day. Then tomorrow, I have that thing that my family can survive eventually. And that can be done through formal engagements and regulators are there. I have done something which is known to me and this is because of knowledge. Right? So you can go ahead. I am not saying that it's just a business. I love business people rather. Right? So it's good. You invest into that, invest into your time where you feel like, but make sure that you have ample of social security and your own security for you and for your family, which can be done through financial planning. Yes.
What you're saying is sounds so confusing. But I want to ask you, in a situation whereby there's so much high inflation or increased inflation, your interest rate and it sells out your savings, and how feasible it is to actually follow the inflation?
Yeah. See, you cannot curb this inflation part in interest rates because these are, macro and micro factors which all the economy has to go on. Now, if I talk about UK and Russia war and all, it is totally impacting financial markets. The US elections going on, there are impact upon our markets for sure. So for that, as I told him, that we need to understand whatever that we are going to say, it should be a bit more. So what we do basically, in a technical language, we have a term or an instrument known as derivatives, right? So we mitigate the risk through derivatives. There's an option trading basically which we do. In that particularly, we always calculate fair price of options. There's a pricing model. So this is something technical which I'm telling you. I don't know how you're gonna grab it. So whenever you calculate that particular value, the fair value will come as per model. But if you see that on the trading means on the screen, if you talk about options which is visible on stock markets, it's called all European and put European basically, we deal in European options. So there will be always a difference, right? So this difference is to cover up the cost part, and it helps us for arbitraging or minting money as well. People can speculate as well. People can do arbitrage, investing into this market, buying in this market, selling into that market. So this thing, we cannot deny the factors which are curbing our savings and investment. But for that, we can diversify our portfolio. Because if I talk about bonds, now these days we need to understand. That's why I told you that we need to be in touch in markets. So if we are talking about we are going towards now hydra projects, energy sustainable projects. So all these projects are basically upcoming projects. So we are lending with green finance now, green bonds, right? So they are giving much better returns and they are also traded well. So we need to diversify our portfolio in a manner, right? Every stock, every asset will get a weightage. This person, let's say my portfolio consists of 100%, equity is for 20%, debt is of 10%, and so on, depending upon your risk appetite. So you need to set your goals, time duration, liability and income, which is you are having, and then just extend it a bit one by because we know that we're going to impact with inflation as well. And diversification of portfolio always help us with the better returns. Because somebody is giving 25%, some asset is going to give me 12%, some is giving 7%, some is giving 5%, right? And somewhere down the can be into losses as well. Every time we cannot make risk as zero. How much we have, even if we do have ample of things with us, risk cannot be zero. But yes, it can be avoided by proper planning and timely diversification. And it's not like that once you diversify, it's done. No. Right? So you need to check it out. That's why portfolio managers are there. Because if people don't have time, you're busy in your own schedule or on your aspect of learnings or on your discipline. So we being a portfolio managers help you. That's why I told you that within a year, I can extract a house to be built in Himachal just with the mutual funds of the person. So you can see that the person is not, he's a country head of that particular organization. He doesn't have time. He has to check out his own sales and own, all the branches. So I was the one who, looking out day in, day out, when to exit, when to enter, when to exit, when to enter. How much to buy, how much to sell. Right? So yeah, inflation is there and it will be there increasing. The thing which we buy at 10 rupees, today we are buying at 100 rupees. And time comes, it's like 1 lakh rupees. So here we come it as a compounded interest. So we are investing in mutual funds, it gives you compounded rate of interest, right? Multiplier interest basically. And then it will be based upon your